lily white. And I put on my ISIS cap. And I said, Michael, make believe you're a radical Muslim walking around in America. Tell me what you see. See, I'm a very inventive personality. Some would say that's really crazy what you just did. No, it isn't. It's called thinking, something that's extinct in the United States of America. It's called critical thinking. It's called role-playing, but it's something you can't really do unless you have a very fertile mind. And let me remind you something. Government Zero hit it to number 3 on the New York Times list without any help from the media. I'm still blacklisted. This is the 7th bestseller I've had in a row. New York Times, still blacklisted. What does it have to do with anything? I'm the only member of the American media banned from entering Britain. Do you know why I was banned from entering Britain? One of the things I allegedly said was this. I said, let's do this together. Let's think together. This was in 2008. I said, what would you do if a radical Muslim group gets their hands on a nuclear device and you know where they are and you know they're going to set it off? I said, would you rather see 1 million of them killed or 1 million of us killed? And for using that logic, I was banned from entering Britain by the psychotic liberal socialist appeasers who let Muslim fanatics into their country, who scream, kill the Queen, overthrow Britain. But I am not allowed to enter that country. That's a nation that's disappeared from the planet. Britain no longer exists. It's a figment of the imagination of soccer fans. Take a look at that phony Cameron and tell me that Britain exists. Another empty shell, another empty suit. And now we come back full circle to that question. What would you do, you good liberal, if you wake up and find out that ISIS has a nuclear device and they're threatening to blow it up, God forbid, in New York City? Tell me what you would do. Go and buy a Quran and try to understand them? Tell yourself that they're not Muslim? Bring in more refugees in order to appease them? Tell me what you would do. So let me go back to what I was trying to say to you before. As I'm saying so much at once, it's very hard to contain all my thoughts at once. But I speak extemporaneously based upon the facts. Go to the mall, White Mall, Saturday, sunny day. Now I say, make believe you're a radical Muslim walking around in America. Tell me what you see. Now remember, I had 3 best-selling novels in a row. Abuse of Power, A Time for War, Countdown to Mecca. I know you didn't read any of them because I'm not a literary figure. You haven't seen me mentioned anywhere in the New York Review of Books or interviewed by any of the famous progressives on the media. But 3 best-selling novels in a row. So I can think creatively like a novelist. So what did I, as a novelist, see as I walked around that mall? Well, I see I have to take a quick commercial break for the wonderful sponsors who make the show possible. So please bear with me. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Your Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com. It's the only company I trust for tangible assets, gold and silver. Call 800-BUICO. Welcome back. Geez, only a minute left. I don't have time. I'm playing some French music. We're playing French composers. Saint-Saëns, Ravel, Berlioz, Debussy, Bizet, Lully. We've also played the French national anthem. I'm going to play an American composer, which I love, George Gershwin, An American in Paris. But I need time to develop it. I'm sorry, the format limits me. My mind requires more time than I have. I can't compress it. When I left off, I was telling you that I put on a different mindset as I walked around an American mall. And I said, what if I were a radical Muslim walking around in America? What would I see in a white American mall on a Saturday? I'll give you a hint. I saw a grown man with a 14-year-old daughter. The daughter was walking around in a pair of pajamas with no shoes. The father was on an iPhone. I said, if this doesn't symbolize the death of the West, I'd like to know what does. You say, well, it's only a girl in pajamas. Is that what it is? Just a girl in pajamas and a father on an iPhone? More when I come back about Government Zero. Maybe you'll wake up.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of unprotected talk, borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
The strategy that we are putting forward is the strategy that ultimately is going to work. But as I said from the start, it's going to take time. And what's been interesting is in the aftermath of Paris, as I listen to those who suggest something else needs to be done, typically the things they suggest need to be done are things we are already doing.
Incidentally, I'm playing Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique March to the Scaffold because this lunatic, this psychopath in the White House is marching us all to the scaffold with his cool intellectual academic mind. It's interesting to me how cool and collected he is and so benevolent when it comes to Islamofascism, so detached even, yet how vicious he is when it comes to Christians, Jews, Israel, and his own nation. It's a pregnant statement, I think. He's doing nothing, in other words. For 2 years, he faked the war against ISIS. How long have I told you it was a fake war against ISIS? How long have I, Michael Savage, told you that we created ISIS? They're using our weapons. They basically were fighting under our air cover because we weren't using air cover to knock them out. How long ago was it that I said to you after they took Mosul, I said there was a victory parade of a half a mile long of their Toyota trucks, and we didn't fire one rocket at them, nor did Israel, by the way. That's when the bell went off in my head, and I said, aha, there it is. Obama and Israel have created ISIS in order to take out Assad. You say, well, maybe you're right. Well, now Russia suddenly changes the quotient. Russia steps in at the last minute and says, no, you're not knocking out my ally. You're not taking out Assad. We have our Navy there. He is our linchpin in the Middle East. You're just not going to do it. And this was after Obama had turned Putin into Hitler. Do you remember? Who else called him Hitler? None other than Hillary Clinton called him Hitler. So we have a situation now that's gotten out of control. The French, who have an imbecile in the army, I agree with ISIS. He is an imbecile. Hollande is an imbecile, plucked from the stupidest amongst the elite. I mean, it's not enough. They're intelligent socialists. They're a patriotic socialist. He's an imbecile. Right out of a 19th century daguerreotype from a lunatic asylum in France. But even that lunatic socialist has launched airstrikes against ISIS, while this fraud in the White House does nothing except expel hot air from between his hissing teeth. You hear the hiss of hot air coming out of him. I saw an empty suit speaking this morning in Turkey. I couldn't believe what I was listening to. I know most of you were working and you didn't have time to listen. I watched with awe how he could get away with this. When even the liberal girl reporters in the audience sat there stunned that he would repeat the same big lie over and over again till someone stands up and says, King has no clothes. No, the king is either crazy or he's working for the other side. Get him off the stage. Put in a wartime consigliere, to use a metaphor from The Godfather. Obama's politics are dead. They're as dead as the ideology of progressive liberalism, dead in the water. And yet they can't change. They won't change unless they're removed from office. Let me go back in time for you. World War II, eve of World War II. England had a leader. He was a pretty smart man. He was a socialist. He goes to Germany to try to appease Hitler, comes back, and he holds up a piece of paper and he says, I've just come back from speaking with Herr Hitler, and the Anglo-German naval agreement has never been stronger. There will never be a war again. Hip, hip, hooray! The next day, Germany invaded another country. What happened to that leader? The country threw him out. His own party threw him out. His own party realized that he was going to lead Britain into the jaws of defeat. They got rid of him. Who took over? A wartime consigliere named Winston Churchill, who saved England. Why do we not have the capacity to remove this weakling academic lunatic from office? He can be removed under many different charges. insanity, incompetence, consorting with the enemy. There's no reason it can't be convened. Say, come on, you're way out of your league, Savage. He's such a great man. How do you even dare suggest such a thing? Well, it's fallen upon me to suggest such a thing because no one else will do it, which is why I'm still banished from the media, from the American media. Isn't it astonishing that I have a book that's number 3 on the New York Times list at a time like this that is absolutely on target, called Government Zero, and the blacklist by Roger Ailes continues to this day? He'd rather have a member of ISIS on, a murderer, than a man who speaks the truth. You know, there's a statement that I put up on my website, michaelsavage.com, by Orwell. I want to get it just right. It's next to the article, A Dance of Death in the West, but I've got to get the Orwell quote correct. I don't want to misquote myself. I hope it's still up there. Here it is. The further a society drifts from the truth, the more it will hate those who speak it. And one of my favorite thinkers, George Orwell. The further a society drifts from the truth, the more it will hate those who speak it. I am the most hated figure in the American media. I don't delude myself. I don't wear it with pride. I wish it were another way, but it isn't. But I do this because I feel that we're down at the end, or at the end of the road here. The hateful Islamist mother of the vermin who blew himself up, that filthy, rotten mother of theirs, says that the Islamist murderer blew himself up because of stress. I'm not making it up. She was interviewed after the verminous son. She said he blew himself up because of stress, says Ibrahim Absalam's family. Stress. Stress. Now, I think it was John Kerry who said that they need jobs. Remember that about a year ago? Or was it one of the girls who worked for Kerry? Said that the reason they're doing this is because they don't have jobs. Now Bernie Sanders says it's because of global warming. That's hot down there in the Middle East. Now, let's look at the attack itself. And then we're going to talk about what we should do while playing French music by great French composers. As I mentioned before, we just played Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique, March to the Scaffold. Quite telling, listening to Obama saying his strategy is ultimately going to work. Well, let's play another Obama here, clip number 4. Because if you want to hear about delusional thinking, listen to clip 4.
There have been a few who suggested that we should put large numbers of U.S. troops on the ground. And keep in mind that
the big lie.
We have the finest military in the world, and we have the finest military minds in the world.
Yeah, with a great commander-in-chief.
Meeting with them intensively for years now
to throw out
discussing these various options.
And anyone who says they should, they throw out.
Not just my view, but the view of my closest military and civilian advisors, that would be a mistake.
So his closest military advisors are the ones who he didn't throw out. Any military advisor who said use troops and crush them like the rat bugs that they are, he dismisses from the military and the trumped-up charges. Civilian advisors consists of degenerate, psychotic drug addicts, in my opinion. I don't know what else to say to you. They're drugged. I look at them, they all look like they're on medication. I think the entire West is medicated. And they're all on drugs, one way or the other. I don't care if it's Prozac or an illegal drug, they're medicated. They're psychotic. They have no reason leading a nation at a time like this. Now let's look at the French so-called air attacks over the way. All we saw was the French planes taking off with the red exhaust coming off the jets, and we all cheered. Whoa, that looked good, didn't it? And then we hear that the French bombed the training camp and the munitions depot, right? Oh, that's great. That made great sense. Bravo, Mr. Hollande. Well, it begs the question, if they knew where the training camps were and where the munitions depot was, why did they bomb it after the attack, not before it? Why did we bomb it before? Why didn't we bomb their training and recruitment centers and their ammunition depots, let's say last week, last month, last year? So we know where they are. We know where they're training. We know where their command and control centers are. Remember the Iraq War? Remember how we all watched it on television? How George Bush masterfully took out, step by step with targeted bombing. It was under Schwarzkopf, remember? And we watched the bombing in the early phases before the invasion. how they took out buildings in Baghdad and other cities that were exactly that. Command and control centers, recruitment centers, munitions depots.